Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. The Viewfort landfill is officially decommissioned. The St. Lucia Solid Waste Management Authority says it has measures in place to ensure that there will be no disruptions to garbage collection.
As of October 1st, 2019, the St. Lucia Solid Waste Management has halted all garbage disposal activities at the Viewfort landfill. A process of covering has commenced, where various layers of soil is being spread across the landfill in an effort to start the caping and decommissioning process. To ensure minimum disruptions to the general public, refuse collection days and times will remain the same from Dennery South to Soufriere. All household and commercial waste will be trucked to a specialized building on the existing Viewfort landfill location. The waste is then transferred into a 45 walk-in floor containers and transported to the Deglo landfill.
All material that would normally come to the landfill would be received and transported to Deglo at no cost to the businesses or the residents. However, we have special waste considerations which would normally attract a fee for disposal even when the landfill was in operation. And those wastes include confidential documents, condemned foods, disposal of pharmaceuticals, and also, mildly hazardous waste.
There was much skepticism and fears of increased costs to the business community with the imminent closure of the site. According to the Deputy General Manager, there are no cost implications to the business community. However, there are some restrictions on the materials and quantity which will be accepted.
We also do not take quantities in excess of 30 cubic yards of construction and demolition waste.
These trucks transport free loads of waste to the Deglo landfill daily.
Before the walk-in floor trailers leaves the Viewfort site, the containers will be covered to ensure that the waste is properly secured so that there will be no blowing off of that material.
This is the first phase towards a landfill-free St. Lucia by 2030. Phase 2 is expected to commence in February 2020. Reporting for the Hot 7 News, I am Novita Emmanuel Green.
Veteran Industrial Relations Consultant Tyrone Maynard was asked again to remain in the position of President General of the National Workers Union, NWU, for another year. The NWU last Sunday held its 2019 Annual Congress of Delegates at the conference room of the Mystique Royal St. Lucia. The delegates who participated in the day's proceedings voted unanimously on a resolution that requested Tyrone Maynard to continue to lead the NWU's general operations. The Congress also debated and approved portfolio reports on negotiations, grievance handling, and educational activities. Maynard now heads a central committee of 21 members, of which Solis Myers is Deputy President General, Joanne Haywood is Secretary General, Caroline Montoute Caro is Finance Officer, and there are 3 trustees. The CSA says its members employed at the Department of Labor have once again sought the union's intervention in a matter which continues to be of grave concern to them and which negatively impacts their ability to deliver an important service to members of the public. The Labor Department has not been functioning at maximum capacity or sometimes has not functioned at all due to industrial turmoil. Last week, Labor Minister Stephenson King said the recent closures of the department are being assessed closely. Internal unrest between the staff and the department's permanent secretary have been identified as the reasons for sick-outs.
Obviously, what is being said is disenchantment with the management style of the permanent secretary. It is a matter which, again, the Ministry of the Public Service is looking into, and I would hope that there will be some resolution soon.
Minister King also touched on the topic surrounding the appointment of a new Labor Commissioner.
Well, this is a matter before the Public Service Commission, and as you are well aware, the politician doesn't get involved in the appointment. So I'm still awaiting a decision by the Public Service Commission.
That was Minister for Labor, Stephenson King. The Department of Health and Wellness is continuing its mandate to strengthen its public health surveillance systems through capacity building training for workers at the ports and airports. Fernell Neptune tells us more. The Port Health Surveillance training was aimed at building the capacity of participants to detect, assess, and respond to any health threats at the various ports of entry in St. Lucia. Senior Environmental Health Officer for Port Health, Karen Joseph, says this training is extremely important and will enhance the knowledge and skills of workers at the ports and airports.
Some of the areas that were broadly looked at was international health regulations, which of course governs so many aspects of port health surveillance. We also looked at disease surveillance. We also looked at public health emergencies at your ports of entries and how you deal with scenarios like that. And of course, we have an upcoming cruise season, so we wanted to make sure that everyone is prepared and on board and know their roles so they can fulfill their functions at the varying ports of entry.
Karen Joseph says she's very pleased with the training as it is expected to increase the competencies of the participants on ways to limit the spread of public health risk.
Well, we're hoping from this workshop, everyone will know their roles at our ports of entry, what they need to do in terms of, health security at the ports of entry. And we're hoping that, overall it would strengthen our borders and make things much safer at our ports of entry.
The participants of the workshop included representatives from Immigration Department, Customs Department, SLASPA, Fire Department, Marine Police, and shipping agencies. Reporting from the Communications Unit of the Ministry of Health and Wellness, I am Fernal Neptune. The Department of Economic Development, Transport and Civil Aviation and a team from Climate Analytics spearheaded the validation exercise for St. Lucia's country program for the Green Climate Fund. The Green Climate Fund is a unique global platform established to respond to climate change by investing in low-emission and climate-resilient development. The GCF aims to limit or reduce greenhouse gas emissions in developing countries and help vulnerable societies adapt to the unavoidable impacts of climate change.
Stakeholders from across multiple government agencies, the private sector and civil society organizations met at the Bay Gardens Hotel Conference Room on October 31, 2019 to validate St. Lucia's country program for the Green Climate Fund. The Green Climate Fund, CGF, is a new global fund created to support the efforts of developing countries to respond to the challenge of climate change. Permanent Secretary in the Department of Economic Development, Transport and Civil Aviation, Claudius Emmanuel, noted that collectively, small island developing states, SIDS, contribute negligibly to climate change, contributing only about 1% of total carbon emissions.
Against this backdrop, adaptation measures are critical to SIDS, especially for the agriculture and fisheries sectors, coastal marine ecosystem, water resources, as well as the infrastructure and health sectors. It is therefore a moral imperative that financial resources for both climate adaptation and mitigation are made available to SIDS on terms and conditions that take account of their peculiarities.
Emmanuel stated that via the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNCCF, climate financing of $100 billion is made available annually. This financing is channeled through the Green Climate Fund to benefit 129 of the world's most vulnerable countries.
In addition to the fact that adaptation needs far exceed the financial commitment made thus far, there is strong competition to access and use the available climate funding, both among and within countries. As such, it is vitally important that St. Lucia adopts an aggressive and proactive posture towards accessing available climate-related funds, such as the Green Climate Fund.
Chief Economist in the Department of Economic Development, Tommy Descartes, stated that his department is the National Designated Authority, NDA, to the Green Climate Fund and serves as the lead liaison between the fund and stakeholders.
And so essentially the department is the one who will be providing no objection for any projects that's submitted, will be given strategic oversight to the overall engagement with the GCF.
Among the requirements to access funding from the GCF is the development of a country program which clearly articulates how the country will engage the GCF based on the strategic priorities developed from robust stakeholder engagement.
Now we are almost completed, and we think it was necessary to bring everybody here to validate what was presented in April. And so the hope is that we will get robust feedback from the stakeholders and we would then refine the document to reflect that.
Climate analytics were contracted under the Green Climate Fund Readiness and Preparatory Support Program to build the institutional capacity of the NDA and key stakeholders, as well as to develop the country program for St. Lucia. Climate Analytics is a global non-profit organization that provides climate science research and policy advice. Frances Fuller, Deputy Director and Implementation Specialist with Climate Analytics, outlined some of the priority projects which emerged from the wide-ranging stakeholder consultations.
Some of the main aspects are around resilience fisheries sectors, smart hospitals, green schools, e-mobility, electric mobility, trying to push that forward. So there's a pretty good cross-section of activities, of focus areas, I guess, and so we do hope that it is somewhat representative of all the priorities that are outlined in the policy documents, but then also to address some of the key concerns from the stakeholders at the community level.
St. Lucia's National Adaptation Plan identified 3 main conditions that affect the island's vulnerability to climate change, namely its small geographical area. It's also one of the world's highest risk locations to tropical cyclones, and its dependency on a few sources of income. For the National Competitiveness and Productivity Council, Glenn Simon reporting.
This is the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. Tennyson Glasgow is up next with all the sporting action.